The Judgment Day. They're big, they're evil, they are the purple and black wave of new, fresh awesomeness. Reinvention for 4 central characters on WWE television, and they've reached their highest point so far as a faction at the recent 2023 Payback event when all 4 members stood on the ramp holding championships, making it as close to what we saw with Evolution nearly 20 years ago in December of 2004. But this is 2023. How did these 4 players get together, and why are they so special as the Judgment Day? How did they rise to become WWE's most important faction? Maybe even the top faction in all of wrestling, not just WWE. Yeah, some of you may get upset. Let us know what you really think of the Judgment Day in the comments below. I'm Kevin, this is Sportskeeda Wrestling. The roots of this story don't run far back that deep, but there is plenty to cover. It got going during WrestleMania 38 season in 2022. The rated R superstar Edge was looking for a fresh direction, and he issued an open challenge for the grandest stage of them all. And it was answered by someone he had never faced before, the phenomenal AJ Styles, setting up a potential dream match that fans had waited years to see. But the thing is, Edge turned against the fans and brutally assaulted Styles, and was definitely showing his more villainous, opportunistic side, after which he began to look a little bit like a vampire with a big beard. Changing his look altogether, Edge teased adding more supernatural elements on the road to WrestleMania, and when WrestleMania came, the dream match between him and Styles was unfortunately not that dreamy. It was alright, but it didn't live up to those expectations, and for some reason Damian Priest got involved to help Edge win? What's going on? People kind of quickly forgot about it though, as we kind of saw that this was much more of an elaborate thing that Edge was doing, and soon the name Judgment Day was coined. When it was time for AJ Styles to get his rematch with Edge at WrestleMania Backlash the following month in May, they unveiled a new member of this group that was growing around Edge in Rhea Ripley, someone who was coming up the ranks of WWE for quite some time and was certainly set for a character change herself. We're starting to see something here. People who resent the world around them and certainly want to judge the world around them while also, getting themselves back on track. Ooh, long-term storytelling? Individualized motivation for a character to win matches? This is making some sense. In hindsight, this was arguably the most important addition to the group, with the timing of it being perfect as Ripley was an established former women's champion, but still yet to really reach her peak. Things got interesting the following month as Judgment Day was pursuing the likes of AJ Styles and Finn Balor to be beaten into their group. It gave the rated R superstar a tyrannical edge. You see that? I did it again. With his either you're with us or against us mentality. And after Hell in a Cell that year, Edge announced that Finn Balor was the newest member of the Judgment Day. And it was the right move for Balor at that point in his career. He had won Intercontinental Championships, was the first WWE Universal Champion, but an unfortunate injury never really let him get back to that point, and WWE had some misfires with creative decisions. Him getting into a new faction was just like the right idea, the right time for the right guy. It was a logical decision, but what seemed to be anything but logical at the time was the trio of Balor, Priest, and Ripley turning on Edge on Monday Night Raw and immediately kicking him out of the faction that he had created, the faction that he had lent his star power to. Edge formed the Judgment Day, had the idea, and now he's the one who's kicked out of it. Again, in hindsight, 2020, we're kind of looking at this. Even Edge could later admit that it turned out for the better than maybe he had initially envisioned it. He revealed in an interview with Corey Graves on the After the Bell podcast the idea for him was to elevate superstars who he felt weren't necessarily getting the right opportunities. And as we move along here, you'll see that that was indeed the case. Edge also clarified in the same interview that he had been keeping tabs on all of them since their time in WWE NXT, WWE's on-screen developmental system. He added, "When I was asked about starting a group and was asked who would be in it, the first names I said were Priest, Ripley, and Balor." The timing was right. It was a lot easier to hate this trio than it was to hate Edge. They did have a rough go when Edge was in the group. People still loved Edge. It was hard to boo a guy who we never thought would wrestle, who came back from multiple neck surgeries and had one of the biggest pops of a Royal Rumble surprise return ever. Fans will always have a sweet spot for Edge, yes, even though he's called the rated R superstar. He's still a beloved legend and a Hall of Famer who's actively in the ring. But these other characters maybe haven't found their way, and Judgment Day was a way to get them there. Making it clear that they had no leaders, this new rendition of the Judgment Day, more refined, began to feud with the Mysterio family. Rey Mysterio, along with his son Dominik Mysterio, beat Balor and Priest at SummerSlam, and Dominik was furious at his father for choosing a more experienced opponent in Edge for the follow-up match at Clash at the Castle in the UK in 2023. While Edge and Rey picked up the win in Cardiff, Wales, the Judgment Day had the last laugh literally when Dominik turned on Edge and his father, Rey Mysterio. Issues between Rey and Dominik were on screen on and off for quite some time, and it was clear that Dominik was sick of living in his father's wrestling shadow. Once again, an individualized resentment becomes something that brings you to a group outside of what you know. Yes, nobody realized it, but Dominik Mysterio made the perfect final addition to the Judgment Day for a superstar who was considered just somebody's kid, right? For lack of a better phrase, some people were just labeling him only Mysterio's son. He upped his character, defined himself in no time. He was no longer Dominik Mysterio, Rey Mysterio's son. He was Dominik Mysterio of the Judgment Day. Dominik even heavily hinted at a relationship, yes, a romantic one, with Rhea Ripley, and somehow that served to benefit them both, with Rhea being the one who wore the pants, I guess. Yeah, there's a lot of undertones and innuendos. Control yourself in the comments. Honestly, some of you just need to pull your tongue into your mouth. The internet comments I've seen about this are just beyond suggestive. Really, grow up. It gave Dominik the opportunity to actually step outside of his father's shadow, and that's exactly what he needed as he went on to become WWE's most hated superstar. How many times has Dominik Mysterio gotten on the microphone in the past year or so only to be drowned out by boos before he could even finish his sentence? Who gets that type of heat in WWE nowadays? Dominik does. Finn Balor, meanwhile, continued to further establish himself by beating Edge in an I Quit match, where he meticulously used mind games to force it to be a situation where Edge had to yell, "I quit," because Rhea Ripley threatened to attack Beth Phoenix with a steel chair and maybe even injure her nearly as bad as the injuries that forced Edge to retire. So, because he loved his wife, he said those two words that no wrestler wants to say: "I quit." Over the top, dramatic stuff that every fan could easily sink their teeth into. You knew where the battle lines were drawn, you knew why characters were motivated, you knew what relationships they had that motivated them to fight. Soon after this, AJ Styles decided to run it back with the Judgment Day, this time bringing out his friends in the OC. Yeah, remember the Biz Cliz? Yes, Gallows and Anderson showed up for backup. They even introduced the returning Mia Yim as the fourth member, which unfortunately didn't have the same effect of adding a fourth member like it did for the Judgment Day. Injuries, other issues, and the shakeup behind the scenes in WWE also played a factor in all of this. It led to a bad Survivor Series for them as Rhea Ripley and Team Damage Control lost in the first women's War Games match on the main roster, and Finn Balor would fall to AJ Styles immediately after that in their match. Still, the conniving crew was able to find a way to beat the OC on Monday Night Raw after Survivor Series to end the feud for at least a little while. The remainder of the year saw Dominik become, once again, very despised and become even more cowardly and gained the term ex-con Dom. Yeah, because he went to jail when he tried to accost his father and family at home. Yes, we're going to get to the whole Rey versus Dom thing soon enough. Jumping to the first part of 2023, the Judgment Day were preparing for the Royal Rumble matches. Balor and Priest had gotten taken out by the returning Edge. Dominik was unfortunately on the losing end to a red-hot Cody Rhodes, and was an entirely different story for Rhea Ripley. Not only did she become the 6th Women's Royal Rumble winner in history, but she became the first woman to enter the match at number 1 and win the whole thing. It was her night. Lasting 1 hour and 68 seconds, Rhea even had the longest individual performance of any woman in a Rumble match up to that point. Her win then set the tone for what would become Judgment Day's biggest and most important run so far. Heading into WrestleMania season, there were 3 important feuds for the entire faction to deal with separately. Balor was busy with Edge, who had a whole lot of reason to want to rip off Balor's head, while Rhea Ripley decided to avenge her loss 3 years earlier and target SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte Flair. Dominik Mysterio, meanwhile, continued the most personal of the feuds that the JD had going into WrestleMania, facing his father, the legendary Rey Mysterio, during the same weekend where he was inducted in the Hall of Fame. A father who still refused to lay a finger on his son. Edge and his wife Beth Phoenix managed to get one better on Balor and Ripley at Elimination Chamber in a very memorable mixed tag team match. The rated R superstar got the last laugh against the Judgment Day when he defeated the Demon inside Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania 39 in LA. And the Demon, even with all of that makeup and the extra persona, got bloodied at the hands of Edge, who had a memorable entrance with Slayer as his entrance music. Yeah, that was awesome. Dominik Mysterio, on the other hand, would eat his own words. Yes, he eventually aggravated his father so much that his father broke his promise to never lay a hand on him, setting up the match at WrestleMania in California, a memorable one where Rey earned the victory and completed a long expressed desire to have a special moment with his son at WrestleMania. Yeah, out of character, that was the case. But Dominik in California, they were booing him through the ceiling, and there wasn't a ceiling there. If there was a ceiling, the fans would have booed Dominik through that ceiling. Now, if you're just faithful to the Judgment Day, you have your purple and black on while you're watching this, and you're saying, they're burying them at WrestleMania, they're burying them. Calm down. This faction of bad boys and a bad girl still got to have a big win at the biggest show of the year. Rhea Ripley once again got to salvage things for the Judgment Day when she defeated Charlotte Flair in truly one of the greatest women's matches to be featured on a WrestleMania, avenging her WrestleMania 36 loss. Yeah, the one that unfortunately didn't take place in front of fans because of the pandemic. And Rhea became the SmackDown Women's Champion in the process. This is a phenomenal match. Go back and watch it. So overall, it was 1-2 for the JD at WrestleMania 39, and you may have noticed that Damian Priest was on the sidelines. It's true that he did take a bit of a back seat in the early chunk of 2023, but immediately after, things changed when he got into a feud with his tag team partner from 2 years before, Puerto Rican superstar singer Bad Bunny. The focus really moved over to Priest here, while WWE was definitely going to capitalize on having a massively popular celebrity, one of the biggest celebrities to ever come out of Puerto Rico, while they were about to present a massive event in Puerto Rico. Priest was going to serve the purpose of being the antagonist to a very popular outside of the wrestling bubble protagonist. Yeah, missing out on WrestleMania may have been a big deal, but this, maybe for Priest, was an even bigger deal, as he would headline Backlash in Puerto Rico against Bad Bunny in a no DQ Anything Goes match that was filled with cameos featuring Carlito and many other superstars from the past. Savio Vega showed up, Rey Mysterio was there, the LWO got reformed. Yeah, the match may not have been an all-time classic, but Bad Bunny, a celebrity who loves himself some wrestling and has appeared in several different matches and had a WrestleMania match in the past with Damian Priest as his tag partner, now got to go toe-to-toe. And yes, we know Damian Priest wasn't going to win the match, but it doesn't really matter because he became an even bigger star because of it. While Damian Priest and Finn Balor were unsuccessful in becoming the first World Heavyweight Champion or first WWE World Heavyweight Champion with that new new lineage they were creating, Rhea Ripley became the most dominant woman in the WWE roster in 2023. And that was really seen when she squashed Natalya in just 69 seconds at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. But there was a reason for that. Rhea Ripley, through all of the rise that she was having, was dealing with some injuries, and that's the reason why the match was kept so short. It's nothing against Natalya. It's WWE saw they had something to protect in Rhea, and they wanted to keep the momentum going while still being able to have a match of some kind. Although he didn't win the tournament, Finn Balor would go on to become the #1 contender for Seth Rollins, the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion, and picking up their feud from 7 years earlier when they battled in the first inaugural Universal Championship match. Around this time, Rhea handed the Women's Championship over, making the history of that championship a new lineage. She would become WWE's Women's World Champion. Yeah, we didn't have that brand distinct stuff anymore. Money in the Bank was huge for the JD, while Dominik lost to Cody Rhodes, still a big match for him. Damian Priest upset the entire WWE fan base when he won the Money in the Bank briefcase, when everyone thought it was going to be LA Knight and they were going to go, yeah, he said no. Yeah, this also played out later on in the same night at Money in the Bank, where, Balor had to challenge for the World Heavyweight title against Seth Rollins. And because of Damian Priest and a slight interaction, there was a distraction and Rollins got out of there with the belt. This is where all the tension between Finn Balor and Damian Priest began to obviously become apparent. Apart from the simply just being resentment that Priest cost him the world title, there was the possibility of Priest cashing in on Balor when he eventually did get a world title match against Rollins at SummerSlam, instantly driving a big wedge between the two. Dominik Mysterio, meanwhile, took a trip down to WWE NXT, where he challenged an arguably on-point and game-ready North American champion in Wes Lee. And thanks to a whole bunch of dirty tactics and outside interference from the Judgment Day, Dom won his first singles title in WWE. Yes, he didn't need his daddy to do it, but he did need a whole lot of other people to do it as well, making 2 out of the 4 members champions. And it was starting to show that the Judgment Day was simply not something that would play on one show. They had a championship from NXT, and Dominik Mysterio made a little bit of history that same week as he became the first person ever to be in headlining featured matches on Monday Night Raw, Tuesday night's NXT, and Friday night SmackDown, all in the same week. Dominik would go on to defend the NXT North American Championship on Raw before retaining it against Mustafa Ali and Wes Lee at the Great American Bash, before another successful title defense against Luchador Dragon Lee. But still, the tensions were high between Balor and Priest, and they were continuously on the rise. When Priest tried to help Balor at SummerSlam, it backfired on him, once again allowing Seth Rollins to retain the title. This seemed like a little bit of a low point because WWE kept dropping the ball with Finn Balor, depending on who you talk to. Whether it was having him take an unnecessary loss as the Demon against Edge, or his continuously failed pursuits of the world title. Everybody else in Judgment Day seemed to have something going on, but not Balor. Yeah, even though he was the one with the most in-ring experience. Given how the Judgment Day was heading into SummerSlam, it made a lot of sense for them to have the world title on someone else, with Damian Priest as Mr. Money in the Bank adding another layer to that. Senior Money in the Bank. Heading into the next premium live event for WWE, there was 2 major happenings. For one, Finn Balor's student and friend, J.D. McDonough, also from a long line of great Irish wrestlers, kept trying to get himself into the Judgment Day. Yeah, J.D. in the J.D. Yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense. But he was getting rejected constantly by Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley. The second was Ripley was taking real leadership role for the first time, essentially forcing Balor and Priest to team up to get the undisputed tag team championships, all while she was taking care of Raquel Rodriguez, her largest and most formidable challenger up until that time. It was a decision that paid off big. While Rhea retained the women's world title against Raquel at Payback, the biggest headline was when Finn Balor and Priest ended Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn's very beloved run as tag team champions. Sure, it took Rhea, Dominik, and JD McDonough to do so, but it led to the sight of all 4 official members of the Judgment Day holding gold. The pinnacle of any faction's run in WWE is when you got all the straps. It's not like this happens a lot either, even when technically it happened with the Bloodline at one point after Solo Sikoa had a North American Championship and then he had to drop it. Yeah, but you get what we're saying. This isn't something that happens every day. The timing was indeed crucial for the Judgment Day. It feels like a special group of single superstars that all have their own motivations, but all are motivated by one central mission of going after all of the beloved figures in WWE and taking all of the titles along the way. Dominik Mysterio has fit in like a glove into this group and gets a tremendous amount of heat. Yeah, on paper it may seem weird that all of these people are playing so well together, especially when you consider we still have that Money in the Bank briefcase sitting there and Damian Priest can cash it in and really upset some people. There has been a lot of missed opportunities with some of the players here. You can say it with Finn Balor, and maybe even in the past with the other members. But when you look at a post-Edge era for the Judgment Day, it's been a lot more hits than misses. This has been one of the surefire things that WWE can build storylines, get real loud reactions from, and get emotional investment from this group and all of the players in it. You can also look at it as a sign of success that they've come so far in such a short space of time, despite the setbacks that are circumstantial and some not so circumstantial. They've found their way into becoming the central part of WWE's flagship shows, Monday Night Raw, and they've helped boost the ratings of WWE NXT. While the Bloodline was breaking up, the Judgment Day was on the come up. The Bloodline, Evolution, other factions you know from WWE's past, like D-Generation X and the Four Horsemen. They were all in a league of their own, but what really makes the Judgment Day stand out is the fact that there really hasn't been any true leader of the group after Edge. It is an all-for-one, one-for-all type of role that they all play. Some people might be more critical of the idea, missing another member or someone else getting the influence. Why isn't JD McDonough in the Judgment Day or someone else? But for all we know, that should be exactly what's needed to give this story a refresh. No matter what, it still works right now. And if it ain't broke, why do you need to try and fix it? Will WWE continue on with the momentum and magic that the Judgment Day have created in this current run? Will they achieve a lot more? Who in the group will become the first world champion? When do you think Damian Priest is going to cash in? Who knows? Maybe these questions may not age well, but we want to hear from you right now. You watched this whole video and you're telling me you can't type any comments down there? Come on now. Let's hear from you, all right?